thank you all and thank your ancestors and your family, whoever helped you get here today in all the ways, whatever you needed. Maybe it's literally someone watching your child right now, or they let you have time off work, or to your parents and your great grandparents, all the energy and the people that it took for you to be here today. I'm grateful and I want to thank them and welcome you. Again, questions at the end, and I'm Phoenix, and I'm now, like I said, this is going to be more of a ceremonial offering, and so I'm so grateful to welcome Batul True Heart here to lead us in ceremony. So welcome.
Thank you, Phoenix. And thank you everybody for coming to this ceremony for all of us today. I feel very honored to be here. I feel very honored to be a part of this Ecotherapy series. So thank you. First things first, we're going to start with opening the directions. And this is a way to really set the container for the next hour and a half that we're together. There are many ways to call on the directions, many traditions. Today we're going to call them in from the Mexica tradition or Aztec tradition, which are some of my more distant ancestors. And so I invite you all to, as Phoenix kind of prepared us for, to lower or close your eyes. And we would normally be standing and we would normally be facing the east to begin, but we can stay in our places right now. And just know that in this tradition, we go counterclockwise. So we will start with the east. So you can kind of do it in your mind with the east. Then we'll circle around counterclockwise to the west, then to the north, the south, above, below, and then last but not least, we'll honor our very own self, our very own essence, the seventh direction. So once again, I invite you to get in a comfortable position and lower or close your eyes, whatever feels more comfortable for you. So I just want to start by saying O Mateo, direction of the east, Tlahuitzlampa, direction of the new day, the light, the sun, the beginning. Giving so much thanks for the sun that shone upon us today here in occupied Huichin Ohlone territory. Giving thanks for that blue sky, that sunlight. We didn't have it a couple weeks ago. So really giving thanks for that light. This is the direction of the eagle. This is the direction of the fire. It's calling on those energies, the energy of vision, both detailed vision and broad vision, calling on that. This is also, as I mentioned, the direction of the light. But what I want to say is that this is the direction that we come to when we've done our work. This is the direction of illumination. So there may be things to shed light upon that aren't light necessarily. But this direction, the direction of the east, that's what you're here for. So I ask that light is shone upon all those dark places or all those hidden places. I pray this. Tlatsukomati O Mateo. Now together in our mind's eye, we can go counterclockwise to the west. O Mateo, direction of the west. Siwatlampa. This is the direction of the end of the day, the setting sun. This is the direction that we go to when we're ready to let something go, when we are ready to release and shed. It's the direction of the earth, the cool earth. It's the direction of the snake, that sheds its skin, that is reborn. And so I know for myself, and I'm certain for others here, there are things to let go of, things that I know I'm ready to let go of. And so I pray for those places, for me, those places where there's internalized colonialism, internalized oppression. I pray for those places inside myself. I pray to shed those things that do not serve me or anyone. This is my prayer. Tatsukomati, Ometeo. And then again, circling around counterclockwise now to the north. Ometeo. Direction of the north. Miklampa. Direction of the past. Direction of our ancestors, those who are no longer here in physical form, but who prayed for us and who still watch over and guide us. Thinking about those ancestors specifically that went through really hard times, even more difficult times than we're facing right now. Giving thanks that our ancestors, my ancestors I know, kept, even through all that they went through, kept something alive, kept this medicine alive. They cherished it, they honored it, they shared it. So that here I am in 2020, so I can cherish it, honor it, and share it. Giving so much thanks to our ancestors, those loving, fierce ancestors that are committed to healing. This is the direction of the jaguar, the direction of the wind, the aire, the shadows, the caves, all those dark places that we really should get to know. This is the place to come to integrate. So I give thanks. Platsukomati, Ometeo. And again, circling around now to the direction of the south. Ometeo, direction of the south. Huitzlampa. Oh, this is the direction of the future, of what's to come. So much uncertainty right now. We don't really know. But I pray for something better, for all beings, for this earth. And most importantly, this direction is for the children. Those young ones, those little ones. I pray for those little ones right now, all those that may be hurting in some way, may be harmed, may be malnourished or nurtured in some way. Praying for them. Thinking about the children on our US border right now who are in cages. And all over the world, the children. I pray for the little one inside of each one of us. I pray that we can heal that little one, that we can bring care to that little one. Our essence. This is the direction of the hummingbird that flies to the left, towards the heart. Also the direction of water. I pray for our future. Tatsukomati, Ometeo. And now in our mind's eye, we'll circle around again. And if you would be willing, if you could go ahead and lift your arms up to the above, to the cosmos, this very mysterious place that we come from and that we will go back to one day. This place that connects us, that no matter where we are in the world, we look up at the same moon, the same sun. Giving thanks for the unseen, which is a part of nature. It's a part of nature that we as colonized people, we've been denied. So I give thanks for the mystery, the unseen, that so much makes up part of this life. Tlatsokomati, ometeo. And now we'll circle around to, and if you can, if you're able to, put a hand on the ground or any part of your body, really, to, if you're able to, just really honor this sixth direction of the earth, our mother, Tonantzin. Oh, giving so much thanks, Mother Earth. So much thanks for your generosity, your abundance, your beauty, your medicine. Where would we be without you? The way you heal us, the way you help us. I don't pray for you as much as I pray for us in our relationship with you. I pray we begin to understand reciprocity. I pray this, giving thanks for the plants that are here to help us and support us in so many ways. Giving thanks. Tlatsokomati, ometeo. And now, last but not least, circling around in your mind's eye. And if you would, if you'd place your hand on your heart, just honoring the seventh direction, our very own essence, our very unique soul that came in this way, just giving thanks, whatever it took for you to be here today. Just in your mind, just give yourself a little hug or a little pat on the back. Also remembering that we, you and me, we are also nature. We're made up of the elements. And this is how we heal, is through the elements, through nature. So let's honor one of the elements, one of the medicines that keeps us alive every moment, and that's the air, the wind. And with that, I'd like to ask that we take 3 more breaths together, allowing that Ide in to help cleanse us, help clear us. So together, if we could take an inhale and an exhale, and an inhale, and an exhale, and an inhale, and an exhale. And with that, I say, Tlatsokomati, 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 ometeo. Thank you, everybody. Sorry, I'm in a room in my home and I'm burning all this copal here and it's a little bit smoky, so maybe I look a little mysterious or something. But so yes, I just want to say once again how honored I am to be here. First things first, I will start with naming who I am, where I'm from. So on my father's side, I am Yoeme or Yaqui. You may be more familiar with the word Yaqui. We are from what's now the border of southern Arizona and northern Mexico. Both of my grandparents on my father's side were born in Sonora, Mexico. My father was born in Phoenix, Arizona, so we have family on both sides of the border now. And I recently learned that Yoeme, there's two, I could say Yaqui or Yoeme, but I recently learned that Yoeme, even in the word yo, the first part of the word yo means ancestral, and eme means one who walks the path. So in my name, in my people, it's, you know, the one who walks the path of the ancestors. So lately I've been feeling more aligned with saying that I'm Yoeme. Now I also recently learned that Yaqui was a name that the other tribes actually gave us. And I just want to acknowledge this person, Cesar Barares, who's been teaching these Yaqui language classes, these Yaqui language classes. So I just feel so grateful. But I learned that it was the surrounding tribes that gave us the name Yaqui after the river that flows through our territory, the Yaqui River. And it's because Yaqui means one who talks with authority, one who's as loud as the river. So I honor that in me too. I want to say that I haven't always had a voice. For decades, I did not have a voice. So I feel grateful that now that I'm connecting more and more with my ancestors, that I have a voice, that I have truth to speak. So that's my father's side, is my Indigenous side. I do identify as Indigenous. And on my mother's side, we are mixed. We are mixed Panamanian-American. So my mother was first generation born here from Panama. My great-grandmother Pastora, who I knew and loved, she brought my grandmother here in the 1950s to Willits, California. Willits is just a couple hours north of San Francisco. And so on that side, we've been here since the 50s. On that side, you know, when I say I'm Panamanian, really what that means is I'm mixed with, you know, Panama was one of the first places to be colonized. So it's a very long mixed history, but it means that I'm from, you know, Indigenous to that area. I have that lineage in me. I also have African lineage in me, and I have Spanish and other European lineage in me as well. So I'm from that descent. Yeah, so that's, you know, probably the most important about me is who I am, where I'm from. I currently live in occupied Huichin Ohlone territory, otherwise known as Oakland, California. I've been living here in the same house with my partner, Corey McMillan, for about 11 years. We've been together for 12 years. So I've been tending to a garden, the same garden, for almost 10 years, learning and growing. So yeah, there's a little bit about that. I want to say that I'm coming here today feeling emotional. I can feel it. I can feel like that weight a little bit in me today. So you'll get to know me a little bit through this call. I tend to be vulnerable and lead with vulnerability. So if I cry, you know, it's okay. I'm okay. That's just the energy moving through me, and it's good. It needs to move through.
I cried at our last offering. So we cry here at these ecotherapy offerings. It's all good.
It's medicine. Tears are medicine. And that's, you know, I'm going to be talking a lot today about the connections. You know, here I am. I'm going to be talking about curanderismo, which is about healing. It's a path of healing. But there's healing. That means there's something to heal, right? There's been harm. So tears and all of that very much just weaves into all of this, because there's so much grief. So I just want to start. I usually like to start by telling a little bit of my story. Not so much to talk about myself, but more so to bring connection, because I find that when I share my story, others can relate, no matter where you're from or what color you are. Like, there are aspects of my story that I think most of us can relate to. Before I tell my story, I would like it if you, as I share, would just maybe start connecting some dots. You know, you might hear some things in my story that have to do with colonialism, assimilation, white supremacy, patriarchy, all these things. It's important me to, homophobia. It's important for me to state that I also am queer, two-spirit, non-binary identified as well. That's a big part of who I am as well. So yeah, where to start? So, you know, my story is I came in with a lot of trauma. I came in with the trauma of my ancestors. I came in with the trauma of generations, so my parents' trauma. And then while I was in the womb, my mom and I experienced physical violence from my father. I tell you this because it already paints a picture. It already paints a picture of harm. But if we look a little deeper, you know, it already paints a picture of how colonialism had already impacted my family so deeply. I was born into violence into my home as an infant. That was happening. Alcoholism, very severe, a lot of fear. And that's pretty much how most of my childhood went. And my mom and I ended up leaving when I was 9 months. We fled, basically, we left. And but the violence and the cycles didn't end. Yeah, that was most of my childhood. My mom is light skinned. She's very white. She's green eyed. She's blonde. She's Latina. She speaks Spanish, but she's very white. And as you know, I left my indigenous side of my family, so I didn't grow up with any of that. In fact, I grew up the only brown skinned person in my family. Everybody else was white. And as time went on, my family on that side just got whiter and whiter. And the reason I'm telling you this is just because, again, you know, for me, I didn't have that reflection of me, of what I look like. I didn't have that around me. I also grew up low income. And I grew up around a lot of white people, all white people, white poor people. I grew up around a lot of drugs, a lot of methamphetamine. I was a little brown, indigenous, very sensitive little person. And so all of this violence, trauma, assimilation. I am the first person in my family to not speak Spanish. It happened in one generation. The three lineages that I know of in me, right? Yoeme, Panamanian, Spanish, they're all Spanish speakers. And I didn't have that. And it has been a wound for me. It has been an obstacle for me, because it has also left me feeling about, you know, where do I belong? Through my teenage years, I drank a lot, partied a lot, and that's pretty much how it was for me into my mid and late 20s. Yeah, so I'm kind of can paint the picture of how it was. I kind of think of like the first part of my life until I was 27 years old. And then at 27 is when things began to change for me. So this was about 15 years ago for me now. At 27, I was brought to my first Native ceremonies. They weren't of my own lineage. I remember my first ceremony was a Lakota sweat lodge. And I remember when I went in there, it was the very first time that I felt myself. Like I felt who I am. I felt my ancestors, really, is what I felt. And so therefore I felt who I am. And it was immediate. It was like, oh, there I am. I've never felt that. And so I kept going. I think one of the next ceremonies I was introduced to, I was brought to a Native American church ceremony. And it's a Peyote Church. And I will say that, you know, when we left my dad at 9 months, I didn't know that I was Yaqui or Yoeme. I went my whole life from birth until I was 32 years old, and I knocked on his doorstep, not knowing exactly who I was. So pardon me while I just take a breath here. So even before I met my father, I went to the Native American church, and I had visions. I saw my family in there. I saw him. I saw my family. They were these Indian cowboys, really dark, with these cowboy hats and flannel shirts and cowboy boots and jeans. And they were singing and drumming. And I was like, you know, I didn't know who these people were really, but I saw them and I felt them. So yes, the ceremony path. I've been on it for 15 years. I've been going strong. I've been healing, which basically means I've been shedding. In 2012, I started going through what I call a decolonial healing process. I'd already been on my path. I met my dad. I found out I'm Yaqui. I'd already been going to ceremony for some time, even before I met my father. But in 2012, I kind of hit another layer of things. And that's when I would say I started decolonizing. And that's when it was almost like a veil came off of me. Like I just started I couldn't stop thinking about colonialism, and I couldn't stop seeing it everywhere, you know, even like things that I had learned in school and stuff, like it was just, I don't know, it was hitting me like, oh, San Francisco, wait, oh, like, wait, why is it named that? Like, we're not Spanish speakers here, like people from here, like what happened? And just, yeah, and then just noticing like it everywhere, this white supremacy, this colonialism everywhere, like in schools, in the hospitals, like down to like the calendar that we're on here. Like this isn't, the calendar we're on here is not the calendar of the people that are the original peoples from here. So all of this started to come like into my awareness on this, in this way that it never had. And then I started going into a depression. That's what my healing looked like. I went into a very deep depression. The first depression I ever went through, like real deep depression, about a year and a half. Not wanting to open the window curtains, just really deep in something, to the point where it got a little bit scary. And so at that time, I did the best thing that I knew to do. And I went to a very dear person in my life, a medicine man, and an Apache medicine man, and I asked if he'd be willing to run a Native American church ceremony, a peyote ceremony for my life. And so in 2014, on 12/13/14, I had a teepee ceremony, a peyote ceremony for my life. People came, my community came, Apache people came to help me, to pray for me. And I didn't know what actually, you know, when you have a ceremony like that, when I had that ceremony, I was going in with a prayer. There was something that I wanted. And for me, I wanted liberation. Honestly, I felt like I had a mountain on my back. even though I'd been doing ceremony and healing and there'd been shifts and stuff, but still it was like I was carrying a mountain on my back. And so I didn't know what I was exactly praying for until the moment came in the ceremony where I had to say it out loud in front of the fire, in front of the medicine. And I said, what came through was, my prayer is to be who I truly am. My prayer is to be who I truly am. Because damn, I did not know. I could not. I was so mixed up, so fragmented, having like, I just wanted some kind of identity, really. I didn't know, was it okay for me to be Indigenous? I didn't know that at that point. I was working that out. So I said that prayer, and about 7 weeks later, I was introduced to this person, Atava Garcia Swisicki. And she is the founder of an herbal school here in Oakland called Ancestral Apothecary. And I met her, we were at a Two-Spirit powwow here in the Bay. And she's like, oh, you know, I was introducing myself, talking to her a little bit. She's like, oh, you should come to my school and you should come to my class. I have this class called Curanderas Toolkit. And as soon as she said it, something in me just lit up, and I knew I needed to be there. I wanted to be there. And so I signed up for that class, and it was, it was the second time in my life. The first time I was in a room with all brown people was at 32 years old, when I met my father, and then I met my brother and my sister that day too. But the second time was when I was in Curanderas Toolkit. It was where I was around all brown and black folks. And that was so healing for me to have that reflection. And it was so healing to hear so many similarities in our stories, in our pain, in our joys. And so about a year later, Atava had asked me, there were some transitions happening, and she'd asked me how I would feel about leading that class, teaching that class. And like I said, I'd been on my journey for some time, and so I accepted that. It was hard for me though. I didn't speak Spanish. I was having a lot of like, what's it called? Like when you feel like a fraud in some way, you know? But something in me just said, no, you just keep showing up. And so around that same time too, so that's really when I started this path of curanderismo. I started meeting more teachers, more mentors. There's one mentor in particular I've been walking with for about 6 years now. And her name is Estela Roman, and she's a Mexican curandera. And she has been so generous with her teachings for me and for many, many people. And so for the last 6 years, I've been going to Mexico 2 or 3 times a year. And I've just been really deepening in this path of curanderismo. And so I'll share that what curanderismo is. I know it may be a new word for folks. Curanderismo is really, the way I think about it is, it's really the medicine that came from the conquest. It's the medicine that came and survived and even thrived through so much pain and terror. Curanderismo in itself, and I think this is partly why I feel so connected to it, in itself, it is a mixed medicine. It's medicine of indigenous peoples to hear. And when I say here, I say what's now called the Americas, specifically the places that were invaded by Spaniards. So we talk a lot about Mexican curanderismo, but, you know, there's curanderismo from, you know, Argentina, from Brazil, Puerto Rico, you know, there's different lines of it. So it's indigenous medicine. It's very much African medicine. You know, when Africans were kidnapped and, you know, forcefully enslaved and brought here, they had their medicine, you know, they had their connections with the cosmos and with the earth. And my understanding is we connected in that way, Africans and indigenous people. We both had these strong connections with both the earth and the cosmos. But many of our plants that we work with in Mesoamerica, in cooking and in herbalism, are from Africa. And many of the practices that we do in curanderismo are also from Africa. And then there's also very much a Spanish line. At that time, the Spanish, the Greek, were known for their medicine, and specifically around concepts like hot and cold, dry and wet, that kind of thing. So there's some of that influence in there. There's Moorish influence, Arabic influence. It's a very mixed medicine. But I like to think of it kind of like the rose that pushed through the concrete. So much devastation. Here's just a little bit here. This is more of a ceremony or an offering. So in this offering, participants will learn about curanderismo, a nature-based holistic healthcare system that was born over 400 years ago out of the trauma, susto, of colonialism, specifically the enslavement and genocide of Black and Indigenous peoples, and about how centuries later, this traditional medicine of sewas, which is in Yoeme, that's what we say, flowers, plants, and prayer, continues to keep our people healthy and alive through the most devastating of times. So this is, right now, this is how I'm saying I'm surviving and thriving, is through my connection with the plants and with nature. I just wanted to say too, it's funny, this photo, I was like, I could have had a photo of me in nature. That's like the most picture that does not have nature in it. But I'm going to show you some more photos of nature in the next slide. Thank you, Phoenix. So what is susto? So you heard me say this word susto. In curanderismo, this word goes around a lot. And it's really how we define trauma. So in curanderismo, trauma is known as susto. Susto is when a harmful shock happens to our body and spirit. Out of protection, our soul leaves and we become a shell of ourselves. Many events can cause susto, but for Black and brown folks, there's been a constant susto, a PTSD really, since the inception of the Americas. Lately, I've been realizing, like, oh wow, like, for the last couple of years, there's been a shift within me, but for about 40 years, I realized I've lived with PTSD, like not having a challenging time really being in my body because of all the trauma. That's really what I was working with. So on the left here, so I just want to share, this is me healing with nature. So I grew all these flowers. I grew up in, like I said, low-income apartments, Section 8 apartments, trailer courts. We didn't have, my mom had 3 jobs, we didn't have time, like we didn't have a garden. We didn't eat traditional foods. I didn't grow up that way. And so I never knew I had the ability to grow flowers or connect with plants. I didn't know that until I started my healing. So these are, marigolds are one of my favorite. These are marigolds, Sempasuchi, that I grew, and also some white yarrow. But these flowers in particular, especially these marigolds, actually support with susto. They support with trauma. All right, so what causes susto? So many events and situations can cause susto. From seeing a car accident to getting a dog bite, those are kind of the daily sustos that can happen, right? Little traumas, and there's bigger traumas, of course, too. But for Black and brown folks, there's a long list of what causes susto for us. From the beginning. So, the forced kidnapping and heinous enslavement of millions of African peoples by white settlers for their labor in building the new world. That's what the Americas here, that's what we're founded upon. It's the foundation of who we are. The rape and genocide of millions of indigenous peoples in order to steal our land. Again, this is what's weaved in to our American systems. The denial from most settlers that this history is real and true, or that there's anything to repair about it. You know, I've been thinking about this one, like why can't we move forward? But it's like, you know, the basics when we're healing is acknowledging that there's something to heal. That's like, can't get anywhere if we don't start there. And so, you know, I think that's part of really what needs to happen. There needs to collectively, we need to really acknowledge the truth of what happened, and then also acknowledge how it's still happening. We've just put a pretty white face on it, a smiling face on it, but all of this is still happening. The denial that these heinous acts are still happening, right? So, for example, the US police constantly murdering Black folks, the susto that Black folks, you know, are living with on the daily. The US prison industrial complex, millions of brown and Black folks. Indigenous children being permanently separated from their parents and locked in cages for years at the border, having borders in the first place. I mean, it just goes on and on. This forced assimilation into a way of life that's not actually who we are. And it's a society that does not respect us. So it's constant. It has never ended. It has never, ever ended. And then, of course, capitalism. That's the fuel that keeps it all going. And capitalism, you know, all it cares about is production and profit. It doesn't care about the earth, and it doesn't care about the people. This is not how indigenous people, African people, this is not the truth of who we are. And it's not the truth of who white people are either. We are all indigenous. We all come from indigenous people. So there's all of that. I know much of this can feel heavy, but I feel that it's so important that we state the truth. This is the truth. This, you know, we want to talk about healing. We want to talk about flowers. We want to talk about medicine, but what's it all for? It's all to heal these things. It's all to face and feel these things. And so that's what I've been doing for some years now. I've been feeling into all of this. And the way that I've been supported so I can do that, so I can have the strength to do that, is through nature, is through the plants. So these are some more, this is one of my main allies here, these Sempasuchi flowers. They are, these are pre-Hispanic flowers, the marigolds, and they're just so incredible. But when I've sat with this flower, it's told me, and maybe you recognize it, it's a flower that is worked with a lot for Dia de los Muertos, for guiding the souls back here. But when I sat with this plant, it said to me, I bring light to the most difficult of nights. So this is a plant that I go to for susto, for trauma, for the worst possible things that we humans have to face. I'll share here on the left. These are my great grandmother Pastora from Panama. These are her red roses. My tia had cut some cuttings of her red roses, and then I got to cut them a few years ago. And so I grow these, my great grandmother's red roses, in my garden. So what are some of the symptoms of susto? So as you know, trauma has, you know, we are not, this is part of, you know, curanderismo is a healthcare system. We are not fragmented beings. You know, we are physical beings, but we are also spiritual beings. We're also emotional beings. And so when there's an ailment, we need to look at all of that. And so trauma, you know, has its impact. And so on the, you know, it can cause many negative effects to a human body and spirit. So some signs of acute susto, like if there was a car accident or something like that, are no appetite, feeling thirsty, losing color in the face, kind of like shock, low energy, insomnia, and a feeling of terror. So you can just see right there how trauma affects the body. But for Black and brown folks, the susto of losing so much, right? Our history, our traditions, language, medicines, just along with the constant violence that is perpetuated on us. And all of that has caused the greatest symptom, which I've experienced myself and that I have witnessed with my students and my community. It's the loss of identity, it's the loss of self-knowing, and it's the loss of self-worth. That's the biggest impact. And that is very much a colonial tactic, is to have us lose that sense of who we truly are. And so again, you can hear my prayer in this, not just for myself, but for everybody, that we do the healing, that we find the way to be who we truly are. So how do we heal? This was actually me having a nice cup of tea with red rose tea, my grandmother's flower. So we heal through decolonizing. And I believe that we all can be decolonizing, no matter what skin color we are. We can all be doing this work. And I feel that we all need to be doing this work. And so it's about remembering, relearning, reclaiming our traditions, our languages, our medicines, as well as reconciling our feelings about what happened. So that's the distinction. I know there's a lot of talk about decolonization. I know there's a lot of talk about remembering and reclaiming. But one thing that my mentor has shared with me that really has hit a place for me, and it's about reconciling. We actually have to like go to those places where harm was done to us, to our ancestors. We also have to go to those places where we have done harm. Because that's the thing. By now, first of all, most of us are mixed blood by now. It's been hundreds of years of colonialism, thousands of ancestors. So that means that, and just even in the society we live in, that means that we're all colonized. We're all deeply colonized. So there's healing for us to do. No matter what color we are, there's healing for us to do. We heal by actively acknowledging the colonizer that lives within us. We heal through our relationship with our ancestors. So this is always my invitation for everyone, but especially white folks, because you're really not white, right? What's that? That's just like a blanket statement. That's not who you are. You come from somewhere. You have the same thing. You have traditions, you have languages, you have plants. So that's always my encouragement, is that we all do our best to connect with our ancestors. And then how we heal, and this is probably, one of the most important aspects of healing, is really how we heal is through our relationship with the elements. We are nature. And I think it's one of the ways that we've been duped here, especially, in the Western world, is like, there's somehow been put shame on if we talk to a plant, right? It's like, but really our ancestors talked to plants, because our ancestors talked to everything. Our ancestors knew that we were in relationship with the seen and with the unseen. And so that's a piece that I feel is so important, that we know that we actually heal through water, fire, earth, and air. We heal through respecting the elements and then through going to them. You know, I took a baño before I took this, I started this class. I had a bath, and not just a self-care bath, but a bath that was really where I really was starting to look at some of the tension I was holding and some of the grief I was holding. So yes, really, this is how we heal, is through our relationship with nature. I think right now I would like to open it up to some questions. I feel like I've been talking for quite a while, and just kind of see where the energy would like to go.
If you have a question, you can raise your hand or just take yourself off mute and jump right in. I have a question, kind of comment, Batul. When you talked about, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your medicine today. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a similar story. Thank you. I can relate. When you talked about, you mentioned like with your own, your own trauma, the intergenerational trauma, how you said how the plants, you said something about how the plants and the flowers give you the strength to be able to deal with the susto of yourself and the susto of other people. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, how do you use the plants so that it can strengthen you?
Thank you for that. Well, I first, I mentioned this, but, I didn't grow up with plants. So I always love saying that to people, because people are like, oh, you have a green thumb. Like, no, it's about building relationship. It's about building connection. So what I've been doing for the last 10 years with my garden is making connection. My garden is actually like a spiritual place that I go to. It's like an extension of me. It's like an altar, really. I go there when I'm sad. I go there when I'm angry. And yeah, it's one of the first things, I think, for me, and really still the thing for me, that had me feel embodied. Just even sitting by a plant and smelling a plant. I have some rosemary right here. Just smelling it, just being around it shifts something for me. It shifts something for us. It's uplifting. And so how it's brought me strength is, well, it's a relationship. It's someone I can go to, it's someone nature is someone I can talk to. It feels like it's intimate, it knows me. I'm learning to know it, So I work with plants in many ways. But it's so beautiful. What I want to say is, like, those pictures you saw, or if you know me, there's a lot of medicines I make and offer to the community. That's all my ancestors working through me. That's all me being who I truly am. No, it's just, when we do the work of healing, then it's like we get to be creative, and that's how I feel right now. I feel like I'm in that place where I get to be creative with the medicine. So, but to answer your question, I think is, it's a lot about being with nature. It's a lot about making relationship, like really like talking to nature, like, hello, how are you? This is how I am today, like literally. About asking permission, not just going and taking, right? That's such a colonial thing to do. Like, oh, I want that, I'm going to take it, it's mine. Like, even down to a branch or a flower, like, let's stop. That's a being over there, and that's a being that feeds other beings, right? Bees. And so let's talk, let's have a moment and be in that reciprocity. So, and then the other thing that's coming to mind from your question too, Phoenix, is just the flower. The flower is so symbolic, right? Flowers, I mean, I can't imagine anybody who doesn't love flowers, but they're so symbolic of us, really. We are flowers. We're meant to be flowers. We're meant to learn. We're meant to grow. You know, we've got roots, roots, and we should be knowing our roots. We should be looking at those dark places, and then we have the light that we're going towards. So it's the flower is a beautiful image for us, that we have that potential to flourish.
Thank you so much. There's a question here in the chat. How can we connect with our ancestors if we don't know their cultural or ethnic lineage? Do you recommend doing a DNA test? Yeah. How do we connect when you don't know your lineage?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I want to say that I know what it's like to not know my lineage. I walked 32 years of this life without knowing my lineage. And I also want to acknowledge, especially for people of African descent, for Black folks, I know that it's been, it's much harder a lot of the time to follow those lines of where exactly you're from. So yeah, I just want to acknowledge that. So I think if that's the case, there are other ways. There are ways to connect. An ancestral path, in my experience, is very mysterious. I have so many stories I can tell you. Even the day that I went to meet my father, I found a deer carcass on the way to meet him. I was compelled to bring the head with me. When I met him, I found out we're Yaqui. Yaqui people are deer people. Mm. I didn't know any of that. I was just like, this is what's happening. And, but I can tell you so many stories to this day that are still happening. So the ancestral path is very mysterious. So I know it's difficult if we don't know for sure, but I do believe there are ways through our dreams. I think setting that intention, before sleeping, like, making a prayer, setting intention. Hey, can I get some clues? Maybe an ancestor could come. There are certain plants like mugwort, or a plant called pericon, or that's one word for it. It's a marigold, that are also supportive with dreaming. So those plants could help as well. So dreaming, and then just like having that intention, and just seeing what happens, being in that mystery of information. It's almost like a scavenger hunt or something. It's like little pieces of information throughout the years. So, but I would say dreaming and working with plants, I would say, could be really helpful. As far as DNA tests, I haven't personally done a DNA test, but yeah, I think, I might at some point, and I think if that's where you're getting information, it's going to be something that can be, lead to a thread to take you somewhere. So I'm supportive of that too.
Yeah, I want to just acknowledge that as a person that's been doing ancestral healing work for a long time too. I'm very grateful. On my mother's side, I can go back at least 5. That's a lot for a Black American. And I think part of it is because my mother's people are from San Antonio. So my great-grandfather was Mexican. We knew my great-grandfather. We knew my great-grandmother. She was Native. So because they were on that part of the land, we were able to hold on to the Mexican ancestry that lives in me because of that. But I don't know much about my paternal lineage except names, a few names. But yes, it's mysterious. And what I have found though, when you are open and you're ready and you ask for them to come, they will come. Just like Batul said. So ask.
The other piece I want to say to that is, if you're so blessed to still have living relatives like abuelas, abuelos, tias, grandparents, aunties, uncle, start talking to people now.
Yeah.
Start talking to people now. Start getting some information. And even like, not even only about their lives, of course, but like, what kind of tea did they drink? Were there any plants that they remembered, having when they were young, any teas, or Were there any salves that their grandmother put on them? Or, you know, those kind of questions are so important. So if you have family if they're willing to talk about it, I know sometimes they're not, which is part of, you know, the harm, but yeah, if you do have that.
It's another question. Can you speak more, provide guidance on how white people can begin to decolonize?
Well, thank you for that question. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is connecting with your ancestors, doing that work. I feel like, especially for white folks, I feel like that's the core of a lot of the challenge, the difficulty that we're having right now as people, in the world, is that so many white folks are disconnected from who they truly are, from where they come from their traditions. And then I know we all are, or many of us are, but so I think starting there, you know, and that's the thing, a lot of white people do have like these amazing records of where you're from, like, so utilize that, you know. So that's first, is be doing that work, that same work that I'm doing, right, of like putting all this together. And then again, like, what are the plants, what were the traditions, where are we from, all that. But, you know, I think the most important work that white folks could be doing is reconciling. And we all need to be doing it, but especially white folks need to be reconciling with the truth of what happened and what's still happening. So that means facing it. That means feeling it. That's how you heal it. That's how we heal it, is we've got to get real, you know, like, not like, if you're feeling guilt, like, go into that guilt, feel that guilt, not with Black and brown people, but with yourself or with other white folks. Feel it, trace it back. Where does it come from? And then you'll know, and then it'll start to integrate in you and you'll walk differently. Also, there's less cultural appropriation when we know where we come from. We can honor each other and not steal and take when we know how valuable our traditions are. So I think that's something else that's missing often for white folks, is they don't get the value of their own lineage, of their own traditions.
One other question, practical question. What plants, herbs, and flowers should we use in our baths, and why?
Oh, wow. So I think you should use the plants that grow around you. So that's one thing, is the way I've been taught is the plants that we need the most are often growing around us. So no matter where you're at, even if you live in the city, there's probably a plant. It could be, you know, like rosemary is very common, and it's a beautiful plant. It's a beautiful plant for coming into our bodies, actually, for embodiment. So one thing I'd say is, like, utilize what you have around you. I think oftentimes, like with plants, we do this with everything, but we like commodify them, you know, like, oh, I need this one big, special, powerful plant. But actually, like, rosemary is so powerful. Chamomile is so powerful. You know, the simple plants, mint is so powerful. I love mint. So I think utilizing the plants growing around you. I also encourage you to cultivate your own plants. Even if you start with one, start making that relationship with the plant and being in that reciprocity. It's so amazing to grow a plant and it provide flowers or it provide fruit and to tend to it. So I recommend using a plant that you grow. And then third, for a bath or for anything, I recommend using a plant from your own ancestral lineage. You know, there's something like, there's so many plants I love, but like the Sempasuchi, this is like family to me. When I knew this was an ancestral plant, because I cried when I was introduced to it. I can still cry about it, you know? I know this is like in me. So I invite you to find out what your ancestral plants are and start working with them.
Yeah, I just wanted to share when I was in my ecotherapy program and we did a whole thing around plants. Like you, I did not have a deep relationship with plants. I didn't think of myself as having a green thumb. We were working with mint and making different concoctions. I got high. Like I felt high off the mint. Like I'd never had that experience. I was giddy. I was just so much joy. I had a spiritual experience. And so I know now mint is one of my plants. And I believe mint is also associated with one of the Orisha that I walk with, Oshun, who's the plant of love and joy. So I didn't know that, but I got high off the mint in a very good way, in a very joyful way. Do you want to talk about a little bit? You have a little time. Let me see if there's another question. Oh, Victoria has a question.
Good morning. Thank you so much for your incredible story and sharing that with us. And the question that I've got is about, I come from Australia. It's a very cynical country, I'm realizing. And so I'm wondering about when people don't see the value in what you're offering, they don't see the value in working with nature, in healing with nature, in being connected to nature. Have you got any advice or insight about how to crack through that cynicism that so many people are stuck in?
Mm. Thank you for that. Yeah, I know that, especially as an Indigenous person that's, you know, living in a colonial society that maybe doesn't take some of the things that are important to me seriously. You know, what I'd say is you just be it, honestly. Like, you be in your connection with nature. You be in it. And then people will start seeing that. They'll start noticing that. They'll start noticing your relationship with it and what you're receiving from it. They're going to notice the difference in you. So it's not so much about convincing anybody, right? Like for me, I've just been connecting with my ancestors. This is all of this has come out just through connecting with my ancestors. And like, you know, I have products, you know, I have this medicine that I make that's now a product that I sell called Agua Florida that Phoenix has. But I'm in 10 stores. I've never approached a store. I've done lots of talks. I don't have a college education. I didn't do all that. But people are approaching me because I'm being it. I'm just being it. This is my life. This is who I am. It's taken decades, you know? So it's not like a tomorrow thing necessarily, but you just keep being it. You keep being who you are. You know, when I hear you talking like that, I'm hearing the Indigenous person in you that's, you know, confronted by this other energy that's saying no and pushing for capitalism and, you know, all of that. So you just be it. You be it, you connect, you make relations, and then you're going to see that your life is going to flourish, you know? And this is reminding me of like, I don't know if you're an herbalist or a plant person, but, you know, the white herbalists that I know that are successful are the ones that are connected with their ancestry. You know, the Irish herbalists that really are connected with their ancestry, the Italian herbalists that are really connected with their ancestry, they're flourishing because they're connected to something. So yeah, so I would invite you, connect with your ancestry, connect with the earth, be it, and everything will flourish.
There's another question here. I want to read all the comments, so please just 1 second. No question, just want to say thank you so much for speaking to the pain of not exactly knowing our ancestral lineages and how mysterious the path is. Thank you for your heart, for your work. Thank you for your encouragement to making connections as we listen to your story. I feel the power in this. I am grateful. Grateful for all you've shared, Batul. I especially appreciate and I'm grateful for you being able to create and receive and for me to receive a ceremony from you, a profound approach to healing therapy, I think. Is there anything you can say about the relationship or difference between things that cure and things that protect? It seems like there may be risk in not including protection. So this might be important for creating and holding ceremony or therapy for someone. Things that cure and things that protect.
Yeah, I think we need to focus on protection a little bit more. And you reminded me of Western medicine. It's not about prevention. It's not about protection or prevention. Like so much, if we actually protected ourselves, prevented, so much wouldn't happen. So I feel like protection and prevention is critical. As far as protection, I mean, there's many ways we can kind of go with that, but what my mentor taught me as far as protection, the best protection is knowing who we are.
Ashe. Yeah.
That is the best protection. We can wear all the things, and I do, believe me, I do. I've got like 10 things on right now. Got the herbs, I got it all, believe me.
Right.
But what's really gonna save me, what's really gonna protect me is my knowing, my recognizing myself.
Ashe. Evelyn?
Hi, I just wanted to ask about, you talked about like the trauma that was passed down, and then how that kind of ends up in like families and the way that relate to it, like you said, with your father and alcoholism. I wanted to ask advice about like connecting to ancestors when maybe the history that you have has a lot of trauma in it, and kind of, I don't know, but I feel like, I don't know, there's a lot of anger I feel like I have anger about like the ways that people have been like harsh, and like how that's kind of made the next generation harsh, and then the next generation harsh, and then you kind of end up, like you said, you grow up with all this like trauma, and then you're all this way of relating to yourself that's really not very nurturing. And like how to kind of reconcile like trying to connect to the ancestors while also having like understanding where they came from, but also having I guess like a kind of anger towards like, oh, you kind of you've hurt has been passed along on so many levels.
Yeah. There's the ancestral aspect, there's the ancestral piece, and the ancestors, they're here to support us when they're part of nature too, right? So again, it's about making that relationship, being in reciprocity. They're the helpful ones, the ones that walk with us. They're here to support us. But the other part of this, all of this, like I said, I keep saying this word reconciling, is that we do. It's actually up to you. It's actually up to you as the person in your family to make things different, to not carry on those abusive ways, those harmful ways. You're the person, And so that means that to heal that, you've got to go there. You've got to create, first of all, there's got to be a safe space for you to go there, right? That you either create or someone creates with you to just dive into what the heck happened. Why is there so much anger? Why is there so much abuse? Go in there, because all of that, we know now that all that is passed down in our DNA somewhere. So, it's the good news and the bad news is that it's up to you what gets carried forth. And as a healer, I'm just guessing that you are in your family. Like that's, it's the good news and the bad news is that you get to be the one to really face and feel all that stuff with the intention of shifting it, of having it not live and be stuck in you. To understand it, to know it, but not to live with it, not to carry it, and definitely not to pass it on.
Ashe, ashe. Yes, Evelyn, I can relate. A lot of anger that was in me, and a lot of abuse was passed down from my family within, that had nothing to do with white people or colonizers. It was within the family. And I had to go into that anger as well and find a safe place to get clear and to heal from it. So, Batul, I want to ask you to close the ceremony, and you can decide how you want to do it. If you want to tell people how they can get in touch with you. If I don't, you can work with people. If people want to work with you, you can share that in however you want, so that people can know what actions they can take after this class. I want to just do a brief commercial for our Florida water that I have purchased. I have used all kinds of Florida water over the years, and I use this. It's almost already gone, and I just got it a week ago because I spray it all the time because, you know, things are on fire in the world. There's just so much, and it's high quality. I highly recommend you go on her website and check out her offerings. It's from her garden, from her ashe, as we say in my tradition, her spiritual power. But I'll leave it to you to close us, Batul, and to say what you need to say.
Thank you, Phoenix. So at the very end, I'm going to close us by releasing the directions. That'll be the end of the ceremony. But right now, you know, I can put, probably the best way to stay connected with me is through Instagram. I offer medicine on there. I make medicine from my garden. I offer medicine on there. So there could be an opportunity to receive medicine from me. I also teach classes. I'm a speaker. You can just keep in touch with me through there. Let me just write this in here. That's the best place to keep kind of track of what I'm doing. And I'm at Batul True Heart on Instagram. On my Instagram, let's see if I can remember this. I actually don't even have a official website yet. Hopefully that's coming soon. But I do have a big cartel site, which is a site where you can purchase my Alba Florida. And so if you go to my Instagram, the link is there. And I'm not remembering it right now, otherwise I would give it to you. But if you go to my Instagram,
I'm typing it in right now. I have it on here.
Thank you. Yeah, it's on the bottle. So yeah, those are a couple ways to stay connected. I work a lot with the emotions. That's like my niche, is working with the 13 aides, the 13 most difficult emotions that we as humans must face. So a lot of the medicine I make has to do with supporting us through difficult emotions. So like sadness, shame, those kind of things. Okay, so before we go into closing the directions, I have an ask. So here's my ask. And I've been getting this just more and more clearly as I've been on my path, and just really the last 6 months, especially being here at home so much with the pandemic. But I really want to make it clear that to really heal, we have to be doing anti-oppression work. Healing work is anti-oppression work. And there's so much to do, right? We need to be doing, our work around racism. We need to be looking at the anti-Blackness that lives within us. We need to be looking at the transphobia that lives within us, the homophobia that lives within us, the misogyny that lives within us, the fat phobia that lives within us, all those places of oppression. If you really want to heal and you really want to help people heal, like really, that's the work to be doing. Ableism, that's the work to be doing. So that's the work I'm doing, and that's my ask, to be doing that work, that anti-oppression work, to be connecting with your ancestors, to be making relationship with nature, and doing anti-oppression work. That's how we heal. Okay, so we're gonna release the directions. Thank you so much. I feel so honored to be here. Thank you for taking this time, an hour and a half out of your day. Thank you so much. Thank you, Phoenix. I'm so grateful. I'm so honored. Thank you. All right, so once again, I invite each of us to go ahead and lower or close our eyes. Maybe just taking a couple nice deep breaths. I know we just talked about many things, many energies may have passed through us at that time. So just feeling ourselves, calling our spirit into our body. And with that, I want to say Tlatsokomati, Omateo, to the directions of the east, the west, the north, the south, above, below, and right here. Thank you for the way that you held the ceremony, how you brought safety here, a sense of safety, a sense of trust. Thank you. Giving thanks to the elements, all that are here on the altar near me, all that are around me, in all of us, around all of us, just giving so much thanks for these elements of nature that make up nature, that make us up. Just giving so much thanks, and my prayer is that we keep connecting with you, we keep going to you. I want to give thanks to my teachers, my mentors, those who have kept this medicine alive, who have been so generous with the way they've shared it, those who have encouraged me to share it as well. I especially want to say thank you to Estela Roman. And then I want to also just thank each one of you. Thank you so much for, whatever it was in you that felt called to be here. I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing, for the healing that you're making happen within yourself, and how that's that real healing, that real dedication, how that is how we're going to change this world, through that anti-oppression work, through that connecting with our ancestors. So I want to acknowledge you for even if you didn't know it, there was a part of you that brought you here so that you can go deeper into that work. So I want to thank you for that. And I just want to thank this whole Ecotherapy series. I want to thank all the teachers that have been presenting, that are going to present. Just thank you for your work. And I feel so honored to be here with you. And lastly, it kind of goes in with the elements, but I just want to thank nature. Just want to thank the trees, the sky, the sun, the flowers, the dirt, the water, the fire, the wind. Thank you. Thank you for all that you provide for us. I pray we know how to walk with you and work with you. So thank you for everything. Thank you, thank you. Thank you to my ancestors. Thank you. Tlatsokomati, Tlatsokomati, Tlatsokomati. Oh, Mateo.